Everybody? Adam Nitti here with The Players Are Loud. Today is another special day. We've got the music man, the quintessential music man of our times, Mr. Billy Buchanan in the house. How are you, Billy?
What's up, man?
How you doing, man? So good to have you here. One of the coolest things about this series for me has been being able to bring not only like the story of the music, behind the songs, but man, these are longtime friendships. You're like a brother to me. We've known each other for forever. We played in
30 years.
Dude, we've played in bands together. We've toured together. We've commiserated together. We've shared a lot of each other's lives together. And I love how, even though we can't be in the same room, I love how we've been able to connect in this way. And it's just fun, man, with the nostalgia and history of all this. So, man, thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me, man. I was actually thinking about, what we were going to talk about. I was like, dude, there's so much we could dive into.
My goodness,
like, literally, it could take like all day.
I don't have enough room on my hard drive to really go through all of it. That's the truth. But let me just start with kind of sharing with everyone. There's a unique story behind "Beat of My Heart," which is the tune that you're heavily involved with on this record. This is the one tune on the album that wasn't just my own composition. This was a co-write. But a lot of people don't realize how old a song this is, right? I mean, the whole guitar riff that began this thing, that was a long time ago. Yeah. I look back on so fondly is how vibrant the music scene was back in Atlanta, where we both used to live. When all this stuff was going on. You were in a band that everybody wanted to be in called Skin Deep. You all enjoyed some regional success, some national success. Would you agree that was a time where you really got a lot of momentum?
Oh, dude, I moved to Atlanta in 1989 from Cleveland, Ohio. So, I'm a Midwestern boy, and I knew that I wanted to do music, for a living. Didn't really know what that looked like. I just knew that I could sing and play guitar and play bass, and I wrote these songs, So I moved to Atlanta. I went to same place you went, to AIM, the Atlanta Institute of Music. My first day going to school, I met Nico Constantine. We know him as Nick.
Was he at AIM?
Nico.
Was Nico at AIM? Was he?
No, Nick was going to Georgia State.
Okay.
Yeah, he was on I met him on the MARTA train. He was going to Georgia State. I was going to AIM.
Wow.
And I'm literally sitting there with my headphones on with my cassette player. And I had my little cassette player, and I had this little carrying case that had all my cassettes in it. So Nick sits down and he just said, hey, man, he sits down and opens up the case. Now, he had a little gig bag on him with his guitar, his freaking, Greek boy, his freaking shirt's down to here with his chest hairs hanging out. And I'm this, back then I was very Afrikaan, so I had like this little hat on, looked like I should have been in a reggae band or something, back in the early 90s, everybody was into all that, cultural Afrikaan stuff. So I had all this, my garb on. So this guy walks in, he's not scared of me, he's not intimidated. He opens up my cassette case, and he sees, at the time I probably had Sade, I had Van Halen, I had Tears for Fears. It was all over the freaking place, And he goes, wow, you're into all kinds of music. You need to come over and play with me and my drummer. And I said, and I'm like, really? He said, yeah, dude, he would love you. So the next day they meet me at, is it Lindsberg? What is it called? MARTA Station.
Gosh. My Atlanta chops.
Lindsberg? I'm saying that wrong. There's something that feels weird about that.
Lindbergh?
Something Berg. MARTA Station in Atlanta.
Yeah,
they pick me up. Him and Rob Clayton pick me up. We go back to the house, and they have like 3 songs. They have riffs for and stuff, man. So
this was literally the next day.
Literally the next day.
Crazy.
So they pick me up. We go back to Rob's house. They rehearse in his basement. And they sit down and start playing. And dude, my mind was blown. And it was the most, dude, honestly, man, you know, I've been in some great musical situations, but this was the most organic. I can't explain. It's hard to explain to people how natural all this felt. Yeah. They played these riffs. I immediately started writing, melodies and words. And they looked at me like, oh, because they didn't have that element. They just wrote these little ideas. Yeah. They didn't have a song man. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I started writing. The first tune we wrote was a tune called Walked Out. And we would play that all the time in the early days. But so I'm thinking we're going to be a 3-piece or whatever, you know. And then they tell me about this other guy they have that they kind of been putting on hold until they had the band together, the musical aspect of the band together. So I'm a little disappointed inside because I'm like, I wanted to be the singer of this band, you know, because I knew that I wanted to sing. So I meet Terrence probably the next day or day after. And he honestly was the yin to my yang. You know, he understood Prince and Terrence Trent D'Arby and all the funk stuff. So we were like on the time. We immediately connected on like Morris Day and the Time. And
yeah, and so, we're talking about Terrence Smith.
Terrence Smith was
just to qualify the complete history here. Great,
right? Yeah. He was the singer of Skin Deep. Yeah, and you know So yeah, man, this thing just came together so quick. And within 6 months, dude, we literally were the biggest band in Atlanta. Like it was insane.
It was insane. I remember.
It was insane stuff. And you know, I try to tell people what this was like for me. You know, as a 19, 20-year-old. It was just craziness. But anyway, how you came into the picture, this is what I remember. Now you tell me if I'm wrong. Okay. We were at Nick's house, and at this point, Skin Deep would have probably been together year and a half or two. Because was Rob already gone?
I don't think at that time, at this particular moment in time, I don't think so.
Because I don't remember Rob. No, he did here. Yes, he did. He played on the first demo of Beat of My Heart. Anyway. Yeah. So to clarify, folks are probably gone. Our first drummer in Skin Deep died in a van accident. Yeah. And that's when Tom Knight came on. Yeah. So I remember you coming over to Nick's house, and we were in the basement, and you know, it's so funny, man. You know, when you're young, you don't think about things in terms of co-write and all this stuff. All you know is that we just came up with a cool song, right? You're not thinking about all that stuff. But I just remember him sitting down and playing a riff, or you sitting down. One of y'all sat down and played the riff. Yeah,
it was me. Nick gave me his guitar, and I was fooling around.
Right.
And I remember. I'm so glad. See, this is so cool because I was trying to tell the story when we were talking to Tom, and I was trying to remember where we were. I remember the moment vividly. I remember us all sitting there. Yeah, I couldn't remember where it was. And you're right. It was Nick's house. It was Nick's guitar, and I was messing around. And back then, you know, I'm still pretty much just a bass player, but I was writing, and I don't. Lord knows, I don't remember what we were plugged into, but there was some tone was inspirational from an overdrive perspective, and I was just messing with riffs. Yeah. Right? That's how it started.
Yeah. So you played the riff, and it's funny because I don't think Nick thought it was going to go anywhere. Dude, you were just playing stuff. Yeah. And I remember going, I immediately heard something in my head. I said, I want that. Give that to me. And I'll make something out of this, you know? Yeah. So I don't know. From there, I don't know if we took it back to the Skin Deep house or whatever. And came up with this tune. And I think, because we kind of unveiled it to you, right?
Yeah, it was amazing, man. And talk about organic, because so it started with noodling, right? And then coming up with the riff got somewhat.
Because to me, it sounded, I'll tell you what I liked about it. So all we had was dun 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 dun. It had all this rhythmic interaction stuff. And I was like, there's some funk in that, y'all. There's some funk in it. I can do something with this.
Yeah. And that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. So it starts with a riff. You know, from a writing perspective, it's cool for people to hear because, you know, it's not always about everybody gets together, sits in a room, and a tune is necessarily done in that moment. That happens, but it doesn't always happen that way. And essentially we had a start to something, and then you went and finished it. And like you said, there was this moment of unveiling it at one point, which was, it was so amazing because, you know, at the moment, it was just a riff. It was just a riff. And I kind of was hearing something rhythmically in my mind. You were hearing something rhythmically in your mind.
Yeah.
When it all finally came together, man, one of the things I love about you with your songwriting is you have a really great way of I hope you take this the right way. It's like you put a nice little bow on things. So you take different elements of a tune and you make them cohesive. That's kind of what I mean by that.
Yeah.
And so you were able to take this riff, obviously you put this amazing melody on it. And for those of you who haven't heard the tune yet, I cannot wait for you to hear the tune because it's one of my favorite tracks on the record in terms of its forward moving energy. And yeah, the evolution happened in that way. And ultimately you guys did a couple demos, right? Before it was all said and done.
Right.
And you'll have to refresh my memory. Like the latest version of the demo, that was still pretty close to the first one, right?
Yeah, once I finished it, I didn't change.
It was done, right? The arrangement never changed.
The only change, it's funny because with your record, with your version of it on your new album, that's the most like changes it's had in forever.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
That song it's funny because it was like, I call that song that was like Skin Deep's final phase. What I mean by that is when we came out, we really didn't have an identity, really. We were just kind of everywhere. Everybody was, Nick was the Yngwie Malmsteen guy.
Yeah,
you had me, I was the pop soul guy. Terrence was definitely more of a funk dude. Rob was this kind of, I don't know, man. Rob was, dude, I have never met anybody like that guy.
Dude, how do you describe him? I mean,
he was all over the place, but he was a metalhead, but he loved funk, he loved reggae, he was a man. Yeah, But so when we finished that, I think that's kind of where Skin Deep stopped as far as our musical. It was a real nice mixture of everything that we were trying to be. It had the rock element, the soul element was there, all the cool harmonies, and King's X had been out at that point, so we definitely brought in that influence. And so yeah, man, I really look fondly on that tune because it really did kind of sum up. If you talk about putting a bow, that tune, along with a few others, kind of put a bow on that part of my life. The Skin Deep phase, and so yeah, and I'm so glad that you recut this tune because I always felt like it needed to be resurrected. You know? It
excites me so much, really, to have it because it's, almost like for selfish reasons, almost there's the wonderful nostalgia of it and kind of bringing what was cool from that era back into what's happening now. And then the other thing was just to be able to kind of reimagine it in a slightly different context, but keeping the same spirit.
And you did. It's freaking great.
Oh, thank you, man.
That whole instrumental section in the middle, I'm like, how in the world did he get here? I mean, seriously, man, I was like, this is freaking great.
Well, I'm super
freaking
proud
amazing,
of it.
Man. Yeah, it was freaking awesome.
I'm
the bridge, everything feels right. It doesn't, nothing feels forced. Because do you know how it is, man? With a lot of instrumental records, man, you get guys who are instrumentalists. And to me, when they start singing and crap, what it sounds like is they came up with this really cool instrumental tune. Oh yeah, I'm gonna put some vocals on it.
Yes, yeah.
I
know exactly what you mean.
It doesn't sound like that at all.
Man, hearing you say that,
dude, it doesn't sound like that at all. I mean, I was like, I ain't gonna lie, dude. I was a little scared. I was like, oh, I
was too, because your concerns. That was my perspective because this was my first time doing a record like this, at least under my name, and the thought of like, what are people going to think of this? How is this going to come across? It's like, you know how it is. You write a tune, you got kind of a personal relationship with it. You know what it's about. You know where it's coming from. You can't always predict what people are going to perceive the tune to be. You don't always know how it's going to be received. And I was so nervous. And I look up to you so much as a writer and as a musical visionary and producer, just having, before even getting to this point right now, which you've made my week already, so thank you. but even before getting to this point, just kind of getting, letting you know kind of what I was thinking, getting your blessing, and what do you think of this idea? You were all about it from the beginning, and that was really encouraging to me. And
well, I'm gonna let your followers in on a little secret.
Uh-oh.
So we finished tracking this new version of the song. Now you don't know that. I don't know if you know this or not, Adam, but when I cut the vocals for that, I literally cut them in a closet. So I play in the Villages, which is this big 55 and over community in Florida. Mm-hmm. And, I play a lot of the music from the 50s and 60s, so they just love what I do. But anyway, so I'm in the middle of this run, but I know I got to get these vocals done. So I pack up all my gear because I was staying at this. At the time, this is before the pandemic, of course. I worked out this arrangement with this senior citizen home where they would let me stay, rent free, if you will. And all I would have to do is entertain the residents once a week. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So I'm in this room. It's real dead in there and everything. So I set up my freaking gear and put my my vocal thingy to do inside the closet, set up my mic, and I sing this entire thing. I'm screaming.
Oh my goodness. I'm
screaming in this old folks home, man. And I'm rocking out trying to get this thing cut for you.
Oh my God.
Stuff, and you're like, oh, it sounds great. I'm like, if he had an idea of how I did this, he'd be freaking cracking up.
I had no idea.
That's how I cut it, dude. But here's what your followers don't know is that I had cut the vocals. Now, when you listen to the tune, you'll see Adam sings in the verses, and then I sing the hook, the choruses. But originally, I sang all of it.
Right.
So Adam hits me up one day. I'm telling this story. So after it's done, well, I think it's done. Adam hits me up, and he's like, "Hey, man, and you're dancing around it, dude. You're trying to figure out how you're gonna best." Asked me this. He's like,
I was nervous, man. I was nervous.
Man, would you mind, man, if I gave the vocals a shot in the verse? I'm like, I don't care, man. You're like, you get pissed or something. I don't care what you do. It's your record. You need to feel comfortable. I know it's not gonna suck, Because see, what they don't know is when we were in Beehive, you sang all the time.
Right.
Like Adam was like, I was the lead singer, but no, there were tunes you actually had some lead on.
Yeah, there were some.
What was that tune, man, that you kind of had you remember that tune? Like you had your moment. It was like the Adam vocal moment.
Yeah.
What was that tune called?
I needed to do research before
this
interview.
But anyway,
you're taking
I
it back.
knew you could sing. I mean, a lot of the cats who follow you probably don't know that, but I already knew you could sing. So when you came to me asking if you could sing, it's your record. I know you can sing. You're not gonna freaking make me look bad or nothing. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was hilarious.
Well, man, you were so gracious with that, and I really was nervous about asking you about it because, man, it's. I want to be respectful. This wasn't just my tune. This was a collective effort, and Billy is an established vocalist. Everybody knows Billy's an amazing singer. Like Billy said, I'm not known for that at all. So it was like, it was so cool for me because this really is a thing that it became kind of like a family affair with the tune. And we got Tom on there from, who was in Beehive and in Skin Deep. And then I got one of my favorite guitar players, Marcos Fogli from Italy. He laid down this ridiculous guitar solo in the song. And I just kind of, as the arrangement was building, I had him in mind because I knew he would have the attitude and the grace, combined attitude and grace to kind of make it soar. Wow. And did
you play the riff?
Yeah. So I did all the guitars except for the solo. Yeah.
That's unbelievable, dude. That's impressive, man.
Oh man, it was ambitious, but
so you told me this was the hardest record you ever recorded.
Oh man, by far. Yeah. I've never done anything, as difficult as the contempo fusion-y type stuff is to play. And a lot of that, let's face it, a lot of that kind of music it's kind of structured around that the pyrotechnics of it, like that's kind of part of it. That's cool. It's what musicians enjoy that.
Yep.
One thing that, I've been telling everybody, it's been a theme of this series, and it's been a massive blessing to me. This record originally, the idea, like we were just talking about, the idea was to get a bunch of guest singers, a bunch of guest guitar players, keyboard, drummers, and everything. And I was going to assume kind of the same role as my instrumental records. I was going to be the bass guy, composer, mad scientist, kind of behind the scenes. But as the pre-production process kept moving forward, it was only because of the encouragement from people like you and other players I was sharing the music with, like the demo versions of my tracks where I was doing the guitar, the vocal. It was truly because of the encouragement of people like you and Tom, Shane Terrio, Scott Bernard, these people that I really trust and I look up to. And I know that, like in your case, if the vocal was super subpar, I know you would have told me,
yeah, man,
maybe, in a nice way. Maybe you wouldn't have told me in a nice way.
It wouldn't have been in a nice way, bro.
Yeah, you wouldn't
I would have shut you down quick. Nah, bro.
But all kidding aside, we would have had a conversation, and I would have, I would have out of care for the record, I would have wanted to move in whatever direction was going to be the best for it. So I just want to thank you for your encouragement, man. It means a lot.
Hey, dude, one thing I do want to say, it was really cool of you to sample the old bridge.
Oh, man.
See, a lot of people don't know this.
I'm glad you brought that up. I want to talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, at the very beginning of Beat in My Heart, you'll hear this old record sounding part. That was the bridge of the original version of Beat in My Heart. So when Adam was recording it, I guess he didn't feel like it fit anymore. So he removes it out of the song, but he gave us a little nod. And I thought that was really cool that you put that at the beginning of the song.
Yeah.
Terrence's voice is there, my voice, Tom's voice is there. It was really, really cool that you did that.
Yeah.
And all the old Skin Deep fans, they get it. Like Jim Garitano, he immediately saying, dude, that was awesome. So that's cool that you did that, man.
Yeah, and that's I appreciate you saying that. That really was that was one of those things that was sort of fleeting shot into my mind as it ran out of nowhere. Because I was so engrossed in the arrangement, I had already kind of forgotten about the old arrangement. But I wonder if it was divine inspiration to put it there, because now it's even more. What am I trying to say? It's even more sentimental to me now than it even was before, having that there. And then what you just mentioned, having all of your voices there, and also too. For me personally, it also pays tribute to the memory of Rob as well, because he was part of that era, even though he left us too soon, because that boy could sing. He had, oh my goodness, he was an amazing.
Man. Meeting Rob Clayton, like literally. We can all go through our lives and we can think of certain people that kind of came along and just really changed our trajectory a lot.
Yeah.
He was, for me, man, he was exactly what I needed at that time, man. Because he was young and hip and all those things, but he was such a freaking pro, man. And I'll never forget a conversation we had. We were coming up with some vocal part for some tune, and I guess I kept singing the minor third. And he's like, it's supposed to be a major third. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, it's supposed to be a major third. You're singing a minor third. And I couldn't even get my head wrapped around it. I was just one of those dudes who would just sing, know? And he just made me think about everything, He made me, but it wasn't just the education stuff. He was the field dog. We all know that. But when it came to musical theory, this guy was so,
man.
So he would challenge me on so much stuff, and it just made me go, okay, dude, if you're going to do this for real. So, he came along, then of course, guys like you, and, it just blew my freaking mind that I really had to okay, I cannot just rely on my natural gifts here. I've got to, figure out what I'm doing here. But man, what a crazy journey. But Atlanta was so cool in the 90s, man. It really
was, man.
I try to explain that to people. I mean, all these bands that came out of there, the David Ryan Harrises and William Duvall with Alice in Chains, and of course all the big acts like TLC and Usher and the Black Crowes, and all this came out while we were freaking there, man. While we're in that city playing. It's insane, man. It's insane, you know. And to be able to say that I played shows with so many of those artists, you know, and was able to pick their brains, and yeah, man, and you know, the coolest part about it for me is to be, you know, 20 years removed from that, and to be able to still see that so many of us are still in the game.
Amen.
And doing well, you know. I mean, you, and I mean, there's so many guys like Tom. I mean, so many guys who are right, you know, smack dab in the middle of that. Yeah. Like David, check this out. David Ryan Harris came to, I live in Florida, for you folks who don't know, I live in St. Augustine. David Ryan Harris came into a show in St. Augustine about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and put me on as the opening act. Oh, so cool. It was really cool because it was an acoustic thing. He was just doing this acoustic tour and put me on. I opened up, did my thing. We told stories about Atlanta and the whole deal. He came up, did his set. It was just freaking great. That must have been fantastic. Yeah, man. I was like, hey, guys, guitar player for John Mayer here, folks. Buddy of mine. Yeah. Well, and you just reminded me. I mean, I remember Jennifer Nettles' band opening for us. Opening for us. You know, it was like. Do you remember when we won? We won Best R&B Band at the Atlanta Music Awards. Yeah. And they were on that bill. Soul Miner's daughter, Jennifer Nettles' band at the time, was on that bill. Won like. Remind people who Jennifer Nettles is. Yeah. She's Jennifer Nettles is in what's Sugarland. Sugarland, yeah. Sugarland. That's her country group now. Yeah. And now she's hosting some show with Snoop Dogg on TBS or TNT or something. But yeah, they won an award the same night we did that night. I'm not gonna even mention the year because it was a freaking 1,000 years ago. We can keep that off the But yeah, man, just nothing shocks me. Nothing surprises me because I've really seen the greats, man. I've seen, you know what I mean? So that's really cool to be able to say that, you know. So I want people to understand, you know, I get people like you on this series, and you know, maybe for a moment from the outside, it's like, look at them just waxing poetic about the old days or whatever. Yeah. The reason we talk about this. And the reason I love bringing this up is because I feel like it's important for people to understand how much things have changed in terms of music and just the model of how we consume and enjoy music. From our stories alone, you can tell there was a very interactive, organic thing that went along with making music. You know, it's that doesn't happen like it used to in the club scene. It's not the same. In the recording scene, it's not the same as it used to be. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, it was so much better back then, but I feel like when you hear, you know, Bill talk, and I feel it when I'm talking, it's like you can tell the passion that is still there, that was really nurtured and fueled on by the activity of our surroundings. And more than anything else, I can say that particular period when we were in bands together and other bands that were relationally doing similar things, I was learning all the time. Yeah, man. I was always learning from how I would watch Skin Deep like a hawk. You know, I'm analyzing everything from the stage presence, you know, the crafting of the show to the banter in between songs. I'm watching you play bass, and I'm going, I'm listening to the tone. I'm trying to soak it all in, and something that I think that our generation shares with each other. And I'm not saying this doesn't exist now, because I do get the fortune of working with students at Belmont University, and I see them with this, although it's not the more common thing. Man, we were always just that whole concept of we want to make it in the music industry. Like, we took that into the entire identity. I want to make it as a bass player. In other words, I want to be the best I can be. I want to make it as a singer. I want to be the best singer I can be. We were sponges, man. We were soaking up everything we could get our hands on, and we gotta keep that energy alive, especially
if we are, as we become more legacy type artists, as days go on, whatever you want to call it, what we impart on this younger generation is so important. And I don't ever want that passion to get lost in that communication,
Yeah. And also, man, I want to add this is it'd be one thing, remember Napoleon Dynamite, the movie, that movie?
Oh yeah.
You remember Uncle Rico? And all he would do is talk about the past.
Yes.
And being able to throw that football over the mountain and all that.
Yeah, man.
We're not doing that because the only reason we're here, first of all, is to talk about your new record. You know what I'm saying?
I forgot about that.
Right. We're here talking about a new record. What I'm trying to say is we're still so creative, Yeah. I'm sitting, I was just went through this whole ordeal where I lost all this music on my hard drive, and I've been trying to recover all this because I'm in the middle of making this new record, and I thought I had lost everything that I had freaking recorded, and it was a mess, but I've retrieved a lot of it. But anyway, we're always creating and still in the game. And so looking back, man, we're just talking about what made us, man. Yeah. I mean, that scene made me the musician that I am, man. I cut my teeth on that scene, man. I learned everything that I know about the music business being in Atlanta. Yeah. So that's all we're talking about here, man. And
that's right.
And there's nothing wrong with talking about good times, man. But yeah, we lived there. We were trying to be those guys still. Mm-hmm. Well, that would be a wreck. That would be a train wreck. We're not doing that, Yeah. One thing I would say, man, also is that the cool thing about songwriting, and I'm really glad that you approached your new album. It just sounds like songs, man. I mean, it's just so cool. I was like, these are songs. Like The World Is Loud is a song. It's not freaking some guy waking off trying to. It's a song, man. I was like, thank you, Adam. I was afraid I was going to get on here and just rag on you, man.
Yeah.
No, it was the great tunes.
Thank you.
And what was my point I was trying to make? Dang it. I'm getting old, folks. See, I'm forgetting stuff. You see this? You see what happened here? What happened to all of you? No, man, it's, you put the songwriting craft first on the record. And that says everything to me about your maturity and where you're at now as an artist,
Thank you so much.
Great, man.
Well, I've mentioned before how this album, really wanted to be, a tip of the hat to my influences from the music that really made me.
Yes.
But what's so awesome is that included in that group are all of you players that are a part of this. And so it's a tribute to y'all as well. Dude, for your influence.
You got a Ty Tabor thing going on, bro.
Man, you're the second person who said that.
Man.
Yeah. Wow.
Pretty cool.
Man, you got to talk about Beehive, because you and I spent so much time in busted up bands and nasty clubs, and I'm half kidding. There were some wonderful times. That was a true brotherhood of a band. Still probably the most fun I've ever had in a band.
Yeah. Ditto, man.
So you got to talk about how that started and all that.
Well, Beehive was the band that I put together after Skin Deep, because by the end of Skin Deep, I knew that I wanted to sing these songs that I was writing. Because I've always been the writer of the band, but I wasn't the lead singer, right? So I knew I wanted to put a band together that I was the singer of, And and it's funny because you as you grow, you realize, okay, you know what? I want to do more of this. I don't want to be as rocky as I was or whatever. You kind of start figuring out your thing, right? And I knew I wanted a funk band, And so Tom was the first guy I went to, because Tom was in Skin Deep with me, and I knew he loved that music. I said, hey, dude, if I put this other band together, would you play drums in it? He's like, dude, whatever you do, I'm there. He was right on board. And then D, who was the first guitar player, I ran into D. The funniest thing, I had met D on the Atlanta scene. He was a guy who used to come see Skin Deep all the time. And if I remember the story correctly, I'm in my front yard in Stone Mountain, Georgia, cutting my grass, and I see D walk by going down the street. So I stopped and said, D. He said, hey, man, so what are you doing? He's like, I live down the street. So he had just moved in. He was rooming with this gal, an old friend of ours. He was renting a room from her. So immediately I was like, oh yeah, that guy, I knew that he was real versatile. I remember that about D. He could play all these different styles, and he was and he was Puerto Rican. So he brought that other cultural thing. I was like, okay, this is perfect. So I went to him and I said, hey man, you want to come audition for this band? And he just sat down, and I just knew he was the guy, you know. And the first bass player in Beehive was a guy named Mike Hartman, who's gone on to do great things too as a writer and a player.
He's here in Nashville now.
He's in Nashville, that's right.
He's killing it. He's amazing.
Killing it, you know. Where did I meet Mike? I don't even remember where I met Mike first, but dude, he was a savant too. I mean, he was young then too, probably 18, something like that, 19 at the most. And dude, he was the funkiest white guy I'd ever met at that point. You know, I was like, what is going on, man?
Yeah.
And he was actually real integral in those early days of Beehive as far as the writing stuff, like tunes like Show You Right. What else? I'll give you some of the early stuff, man. He wrote a lot of those riffs and stuff. He would just bring these ideas to me. And I've always been that guy that could just take stuff and, like you said, put it together, you know?
Yeah.
So we did that for a bit, I don't know, maybe a year or so. And then he left, and that's when you came on board.
Mm-hmm.
And because at the time, Dee was still there and Tom, right?
That's right.
So you came in right after Mike. And that's when we started touring around and stuff. And then eventually Tom left, and who did we bring on next? Would it have been Dwayne Holloway? Yeah. And that was the core for a long time. That me, you, Dee Rosario, and Dwayne Holloway. And we were killing the Southeast and, you know, making booties wiggle. You know what I'm saying? That's what we do, you know?
You know, looking back, man, when I know with Skin Deep, I remember, and I hate to keep going back to that band, but there's so much that, again, that originated out of that era. But what I want to ask about is not really related to Skin Deep as much as is in general, because I'd love to get your take on this. But everybody kind of took for granted that band was just going to rise to the top and sell millions of records and all that other stuff.
So did we.
You guys, you kind of hit I don't mean this demeaning, but you guys kind of hit a plateau with the success, and you couldn't get above it. And I mean, I feel like we experienced a similar thing in Beehive. Like we hit a plateau. It was hard to get to the next rung on the ladder. Man, what's your perspective? Is it luck? Is it who you know? Like what is keeping things from not doing well? What's allowing things to do well? Just, do you have a philosophy about that based on the business? Yeah. The longer I'm around, I think what I think I know, I realize I don't know anything about.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Well, here's my take. First of all, I think the biggest issue is personnel and personal stuff. Now, what I mean by that is when everything's good and everybody, you know, you're the most popular band on the scene and you're opening up for Van Halen and Alice in Chains, and everything was great, you know, even though we were dealing with some internal stuff that I'm not going to go into as far as personal stuff, you know, there was definitely some of that there. But when things are good, you'll do whatever to make it work, right? But like you said, when you hit that plateau and you're starting to like be like this like bar band, that's what, when we ended, we were kind of a bar band. We were doing these like 2 and 3 night stints at places, doing covers and all that. Not that doing covers is bad, but we lost our direction. You know, it just kind of fell apart. And I think.
Now, let me ask you real quick. Forgive me. I want to interrupt and I want to let you continue your thought, but that's an important point, because I remember going to shows to see you guys doing those covers. Just really quick, was that out of necessity to pay bills, or were you guys just kind of, was it more of a floundering trying to figure out what you
you got to remember too, man, when we were, and we're going to show our age a little bit when I say this, but you got to remember, man, once Seattle came into play, that whole grunge thing, a lot of us, man, were literally like, you know, flopping around trying to figure out, how do I fit into this? Because all that other stuff was gone. Yeah. Okay. It seemed like in a freaking day. Yeah. Right? Really, it does. Yeah. It was so weird. It's like, as soon as I saw I'll never forget this, man. I went home one Christmas. This would have probably been, it was early 90s sometime. Went home for Christmas, turned on MTV, and I'm sitting there in my bed, in my old bedroom at my mom's house. And I'd been hearing about this band. and I
I
turn
know
on
what
MTV.
you're gonna say. I bet I know.
I've been hearing about this band. I turned on MTV, and the video for "Smells Like Teen Spirit" came on.
Exactly.
Bro.
Exactly.
And I literally remember.
I do too.
I remember thinking this thought: this is going to change everything.
Yeah, and it did.
Because I knew that we weren't that. I knew that we weren't that kind of band. The thing that we were doing was from another period, man, and that's the only way I can put it. And I saw that, and I said, this is a freaking game changer. Because, dude, I don't know how you felt, but I liked it.
Yeah, I did too. I didn't want to tell anybody I liked it, but I did.
No, bro, I'll tell you why I liked it, man. Because you know me, I'm a melody guy, man.
Yeah.
So when they dropped it to hello, 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 I was like, holy freaking crap, man.
Yeah.
It was so, I can put my finger, I can remember moments like this for certain bands, and I heard them and I knew this was going to be game-changing crap. I didn't fully understand it, but I knew it was going to change things.
Yeah.
I remember hearing King's X for the first time thinking that. I remember hearing Hendrix for the first time thinking that. I remember freaking hearing Amy Winehouse and thinking that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what is this freaking music, you know? Artists come around like that, man, and they just change everything.
Right.
So I saw that Nirvana video, dude, and I went back to Skin Deep and I said, bro, we're in a world of trouble. Mm-hmm. I just knew, because we didn't know how to navigate out of that, man. Yeah. So we started wearing flannel shirts.
Yeah.
We started doing all that crap, and it wasn't our bag, man. And so
yeah, and parlay that, because I didn't want to cut off your other idea, because you were talking about
that
the
I'm about to get into
thing.
it.
So I just want to make sure that I let you finish that idea.
Right. So we were dealing with that whole thing, the musical aspect of it, but then we didn't have it was like, man, there's been other bands that I've been in since Skin Deep and Beehive where it was kind of a forced family kind of thing, where we had some successes, but once that success was over, there wasn't this, and I don't know the guys in bands like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of some great bands that we grew up listening to, like REM, or where you just kind of always felt like it was these four guys who were just moving in the same direction. They were all writing together. It was just this family. And so they went through all the ups and downs of the music business together, but they were in it because it was REM, Because, well, for me, there have been bands I've been in where we were just in this band because the band had opportunities to do well for whatever reason. Maybe we had good management. We, somehow fell into a record deal, whatever it was. So we rode that thing while it was successful and we were all good. But once you had to fight for it, it was like, you know what? I'm not really wanting to fight for this because there's other things that I want to do. I think that's what happened with Skin Deep, because, we were all getting a little old, not older, like old, but we were getting to that age where I need to make some long-term decisions.
Yeah.
Is this what I want to do long-term musically, or do I really want to figure out my thing? And I know that's where I was at.
Yeah.
By the time I left Skin Deep and started Beehive, I knew in my head, you know what? There's some other things musically that I want to do. And I want to kind of be a little bit more a master of my own domain, if you will. I just wanted to set my course more. And, we were so young when we started that band, Now with Beehive, it was a different thing because I don't know if you remember this. Tom left because he got the TLC thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And then, so it was kind of like we had all these talented guys who were kind of falling off, doing other things. Mike Hartman left because he was doing other stuff. I don't even remember. Was it just me, you, and D for a while? And our drummers were changing.
Well, we were essentially doing glorified auditions with rehearsals, I guess.
Right.
Because we did play with several drummers. I don't remember doing shows necessarily, but we did a lot of rehearsals, I thought, with
but
drummers.
I don't know how you vision or how you remember the end of Beehive, but I just kind of remember just like, I don't know, man, I knew what I wanted to do and we just weren't on the same page. Like, I don't know what we're doing here. And it just kind of fizzled. I don't even remember the band ever really ending.
Right. No, that's true.
It just kind of fizzled. We all went off to our own thing, but always stayed in touch. And so the band really never broke up. That's why we can get together and still kill it because it's always still part of who we are and what we a big part of, I mean, it's always gonna be a part of me for sure, you know?
It's almost the cliche analogy, right? Like people talk about, oh, being in a band, it's like being in a marriage. But man, it's in a lot of ways, it really is. Because when you think about a marriage and you make this commitment, it usually starts out all flowery and exciting, right? You got the honeymoon period and all that, where the marriage doesn't really get tested until you start walking through the fire with somebody.
Right.
And when you're in a band, 3, 4 or more individuals, it's hard enough with 2 individuals, but you take 3 or 4 individuals and put them together when you start to go through trials and tribulations, and let alone the internal struggles that may be going on with everybody personally. And that's a topic for another time, but it's difficult, and I'm not going to sit there and say, well, we didn't want it to succeed bad enough, or anything. I don't think it's that simple. I think it really is. Sometimes trials can be good because they take you to a place where they force you to be at a crossroads, and they force you to make a decision that is tough to make about which direction you feel like you're being called in. Right. A lot of people are in band. I've seen this so many times, especially when it's shrouded in success. There's players out there that likes kind of like hiding in the success, because it's like it's an escape from having to make a decision. Like I could totally see finding a comfort zone in a successful band where you're a member and just kind of like taking for, I don't have to worry about anything anymore. I'm in this band and it's going to take care of this and that and the other thing. And I don't want to have to worry about figuring out an alternative way to make a living or work with other musicians. And like that's a way of looking at it that's almost more like safe, super safety, maybe to the point of escapism, until you're faced with something that, like the band ending, or, Lord forbid, a band member gets really sick and you can't tour anymore and stuff like that.
Right.
I guess where I'm going with this is that if you know kind of what your identity is, or what where you're being pulled, to actually stay in your lane when the lane gets bumpy and the road's all busted up. I mean, it's just not easy for anybody.
Right.
And, we were fortunate in Beehive because we all had a faith connection as well,
Yes, right.
And not everybody realizes that, we weren't considered like a faith-based band, but we shared the same like moral convictions and spiritual convictions. And man, that was a lifesaver for me out there, man.
I agree.
Because it's tough,
Honestly, that's why I picked the people. Honestly, dude, that was a huge part of picking the players for that band.
Yeah.
Because I knew that I didn't want to be a, CCM band per se, but I knew that I wanted the guys around me to get where I was coming from and what I was trying to do. I don't know if you remember this. A lot of the write-ups, they'd say like, there's this amazing up with people kind of band. That's what they would call it.
Yeah.
This like, we would always get this real positive band. And dude, that's all I wanted, man.
Yeah.
If I'm putting a little sunshine in the world, then I'm doing my job, man. One thing I wanted to say, dude, is that another thing is that, man, if you don't sit down as a band and you really talk through, it's kind of like when you're in a business and you're like, okay, so what are we trying to accomplish in this business? I don't know, whether it be you, I don't know, man, whatever it is I watch Shark Tank and stuff, so they'll come up there and they'll do their pitch and they got to have their whole game plan together and stuff. And, we never did that. I mean, we didn't even know how to do that, So everybody's in their own heads has this different idea of what success looks like for the band and where the band's going. And everybody's got their agenda. If you're not on the same page, bro, you can forget it, man.
Yeah. So
you can forget it, And I think that most of the bands that I've ever been in were guilty of that. And I'm probably the guiltiest party because I've always got a freaking agenda. Especially back then, I was always trying to finagle things and make things happen and all that crap, And there's nothing wrong with being a planner, man.
Absolutely.
And having vision and all that. But you got to get everybody on board with the vision. And when they're not on board, everybody's pulling in different directions. It'll never work, you know?
Yeah. I think as creatives, there are exceptions out there. But I think as creatives in general, it's not really our nature to think in that business perspective as much.
Very true.
We're very, we may be visionaries and have these grandiose sort of like long range aspirations, right? But we just want to, and I speak for myself anyways. It's like, I don't want to do a business plan. I just want to work on it. Let me do it. I want to do it. Yeah. You know, like I don't want to think about pacing it out. I just want to do it. You know, it's like, there's this need to kind of take the inspiration, the momentum of the inspiration. Let me roll with that. That's enough. In a business context, and if you're trying to make a living doing what we're doing, that is going to hurt you. And I've burned myself many times coming up as an aspiring business-oriented musician or whatever, because of my own weakness in that way as a short-sighted creative. And it's taken people on the outside, namely my wife she's been beating it into my head for years. You know, she had a client one time. They were talking about my career and just the challenges of it and stuff like that years ago. And he was a business expert, you know, long time retired. This is money just kind of falls off his cufflinks, you know, just moving his arms around. Yeah. But it wasn't just about money for this person. Don't get me wrong. But he made a statement. He said, you know, it sounds like your husband is, he's not really running a business. He's just kind of entertaining a vision. And I'm paraphrasing.
I get it. Yeah.
It was profound. It was like, you don't run a business like you do, write a song, you know, I'll just strictly off of inspirational momentum. And that stuck with me, and I still am working at it. But you know what, the greatest thing that's helped me the most is finally being willing to delegate other things to other people and just recognize my weaknesses. Yeah. Look, I suck at this particular aspect of the business. It's better if this person does it. Right. Let me pay them to do this instead. Right. I know I finally, after all these years, feel like I got a grip on what my skills are and even more importantly, what they are not, you know? Yeah.
So I think a lot of the bands that we've been in the past, I think that's, at the end of the day, that is what hurts us or hurt us, is that we didn't have that, you know, you want to be in a band that's successful. Well, you can't have success, man, if you can't listen, man, that's why you have great managers and booking agents out there. People who think monetarily, who are thinking, you know, what's this going to look like a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, Lord willing, they're still together. What's this going to look like? And we didn't have anybody like that in our camp. You know, it was just us. And we're, like you said, we're just a bunch of creative knuckleheads who just wants to rock out and, you know, you know, where's that going to go? You know, there was no, I mean, dude, I remember going, you weren't as dumb as you think you were, because you used to say stuff to me like, we would do gigs and you'd be like, so we're getting paid how much? And how are we going to like pay? Are we going to get paid? And how are we going to put gas in the van? And I didn't think about any of that. Oh, they're going to pay us something? We're going.
Right. All I heard was paid.
There was no budget. There was no nothing. We were just doing stuff. You know what I mean? It's just,
you know, it's amazing, honestly, we did as well as we did. You know, thank God. But, you know, we could have, gosh, back then, man, we could have been stranded.
Bro, as many people as we were bringing to shows, we had so much leverage. Yeah. We didn't use any of it.
I know.
I mean, none of it, dude.
Man.
Lessons learned, my friend, lessons learned.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you're an incredible songwriter, great storyteller. Man, you know, as long as I've known you, one of my favorite things about you is just, you're like me, man. You're hooked by a melody that's strong. Yeah. You love melody. We love a lot of the same bands for that, or same singers and bands for that reason. Yeah. But from a writing context, are you the kind of person that's just like suddenly inspired with something specific, or do you like grind things out? How do you write?
Wow, man. Man, since I was a kid, man, I just have these little things that just pop in my head. Like, I'll be walking around the house singing something and then realize that's nobody's song.
Mm.
I've always been that guy just hum stuff. Or man, I mean, it's a gift, man. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll literally have an entire song in my head.
Wow.
And I'll go to my little recorder and I record it, wake up the next morning and I go, wow, that's actually pretty good. I mean, I have.
You keep a recorder next to the bed?
I keep my phone.
Nice.
You know, and I was always ready to record. And it's funny, man, because there'll be so many nights, man, where I'm tired and I'm like, but I get up every time and make myself do it because I remember reading this thing about Paul McCartney. He's like, I've lost so many songs in the middle of the night because I didn't get up to record it, you know, and it could have been my next big hit or whatever, you know. So it's a discipline of mine to get up and make sure that I do it. That's
really impressive. That's really
I always do it, man. And but you know, I wish I could say there was a set way that I do things. That I don't think there is. I think mostly I come up with the melody first. I just have this melody in my head. And then I'll just kind of, if you look at my phone, I'll come up with these fake titles. Like if it reminds me of something. Mm-hmm. Tears for Fears melody. You know?
Yeah.
The Adam Nitti booty song, you know, whatever, you know what I'm saying? So y'all, these are little inside jokes.
Inside jokes, people.
Adam has this. If you ever watch Adam when he's performing, especially when it's something funky, he's got this little wiggle that his booty does. You know what I'm saying? And so I would have to, on stage, stand behind this dude and see it every night. I'd be on the drum riser, you know, rocking out. Adam's up front doing his thing in his booties.
You're welcome. Oh, boy.
Oh, freaking hilarious. So I'll sit on these melodies, man, or if I'm really, because what'll happen a lot of times, I'll record it and it'll be one or two ideas and I'll leave it alone for weeks on end. Like I just move on to something else or whatever. Then I'll come back and I'll go, holy crap, this is great. Then I'll take the time to really, you know, really flesh it out and finish the tune. But some songs, man, come really fast. There's some that I'll have everything, man, in a day. I'll have the words, the melody, it just all comes. There's other songs, man, take literally years to finish, man.
Yeah.
Literally years. Like New Day, Beehive tune, that Mike Hartman kind of came up with the guitar riff thing in the verse. And so I took that, ran with that, finished this tune. Now I'm thinking the song's done, right? We played it for years a certain way, right? When I got my record deal, moved to Nashville, they loved the song, but they just thought that it was too redundant. So they made me, I say made me, but they strongly encouraged me to rewrite let's see what I do. Rewrite the lyrics in the verse, because I don't know if you remember, it kind of ended with, at the end of every line, gonna be a new day for me. Yeah. So it said it in every verse, and then in the chorus. And you thought it was too redundant, and so I rewrote it with a couple guys in Nashville, and it came out good. And I do perform when I do perform, and I do perform it the new way. But there's a part of me that goes, was it okay?
Yeah.
The way that it was originally, you know. Yeah. Songs are very subjective, right? You know, it's just. And so you just, I don't know, man, you gotta get to a place where you're happy with it. If it moves you, I've gotten to the point where I'll finish it too, and I let people who I respect listen to it. I let some normal people who don't really know me listen to it. And if they're moved by it and it affects them the way it affects me, then I'm onto something.
Yeah. That's good.
You know what I'm saying? But I don't know, man. All these years of writing songs, I'm still trying to figure things out, man. Because it's a writing now is different, because you write this song, then you're like, okay, so what am I gonna do with this thing now?
Yeah.
Nope, ain't nobody buying it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's a strange times, my friend.
Man, what's your you bring up a great topic I want to ask you about, because I made what would be considered by many, maybe most, kind of like a less popular decision to actually go ahead and spend the money to print physical media. My fan base, there's a lot of them that still really prefer to have a CD and be able to, thumb through liner notes, have physical media, even if they're going to throw it into, a hard drive. They still love to have that. And I mean, I celebrate that. I think it's great. But, the overwhelming majority of my sales, of course, come from digital and streaming. And that's just the way it is. And I had to quit fighting it one day and that's how things were.
Right.
Where do you think, I'm curious to hear where you think things are headed, because, even the idea of releasing a complete album doesn't necessarily have the same gravity it used to have. A lot of people now are just preferring to release singles and kind of stretch things out that way. I'd love to hear your take on what you think is now relevant and effective. How you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, just think about some of the artists who've released albums this year, or maybe you don't even know. Like Bon Jovi put an album out this year, or at the end of 2020. And it was one day. Honestly, it was no more promotion. At least it didn't feel like any more promotion I would see on your record or my record.
Yeah. I didn't even know that. You just, I didn't even know that.
I mean, it's a whole album about 2020.
Okay.
I mean, literally. Yeah. And now I've never been a huge Bon Jovi fan, but my point is, here's this huge band, Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, putting this album out. 20 years ago, man, it would have been everywhere. And they put this album out, and here we are a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks later, and nobody cares,
Unreal.
And I say nobody, but you know what I'm saying? In comparison to what it used to be.
Yeah.
It's
the mainstream isn't trying to shove it down everybody's throat.
Those days are over, right? Yeah. So there's definitely some validity to what you're saying about it's like, man, do I waste, like right now I'm finishing a record. And I'm asking myself, the whole time I'm recording this, I'm going, am I going to release this all at once? Or am I going to spread this out over a year and release one song at a time and just promote one tune at a time or whatever? And it's just a thing. And like I was telling you the other day when we were talking, my biggest focus now is licensing, TV, movies, video games. That's the best outlet that I can find for my tunes right now.
Yeah.
Man, I would love for music to sell more, but it doesn't. I mean, we got Spotify, and I use it every day, and I pay my $14 a month, and I can listen to anything I want to. Who's not gonna? It sucks, but I don't know how that model could change anytime soon.
Yeah, and if it does change, what does it become? It's harder than ever. You could see the writing on the wall when the death of physical media started to trickle, in. Now it's like, it's so hard to figure out. It's like, okay, well, all right, we've done away with paying for music. Now we pay for access to music. That's the new model, right?
Right.
Where does it go? Like beyond access to music, does music get chipped into our brains? I mean, it's like, I'm not really sure where it's headed, but I know from a consumer perspective, it feels like the whole music thing, it's almost like it's become a part of the rest of the media onslaught, and it's just part of the noise. It's and this is just my personal take, and I'm thinking out loud here because I'm still trying to figure this out. But it really feels like it's become the idea of a product is disappearing, and there's an amassing of noise out there, and it's up to the consumer to figure out how closely can I hear this part of the noise. Let me extract that out here. Let me focus on that for a second. I hear this noise over here.
Yeah,
it's happening with everything in terms of audio, video, education. It's how we interact with the world is such on a virtual level. Does it hit a throwback at some point? All of a sudden we're celebrating the advent of physical media out of the blue. It's so weird.
What I see, and this is a whole big conversation, but what I see is ownership being taken away from you. Now, what I mean by that is not only for writers, the creatives, you put this music out there and you're not being compensated for that's something that you own. That song belongs to you, right? Came out of you. That's your property, right? But you're not being compensated for that anymore. And if you are, very, very little.
Right.
But going beyond that, even the consumer can't own it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Even
yeah, absolutely.
It's like everything is kind of, there's no ownership. It's more like everything belongs to everybody thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a whole another conversation, but it's like,
man, you're doing a great job of kind of crystallizing my just random thought, because it's the access model, just in the same way we get on our smartphone or on the internet. And in a moment, it doesn't matter what we want to know. It could be what squirrels eat to the greatest avocado recipe of all time, to the latest hit from Katy Perry. It's there in an instant. And I hear what you're saying. It's like, we're creating what just becomes a part of this big network.
Yes.
And there's no identity, there's no ID of ownership. It's just the information's there kind of thing.
Yes.
It's pretty heavy to think about, really.
Very heavy.
That's great. That's very interesting. I'm going to think more about that.
Yeah. You know, and where's it going? Who's driving it? Who's driving this freaking train, man? Because somebody is.
Yeah, somebody is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's pretty deep, man, when you think about it, you know, and I honestly, man, I think pretty deep sometimes, and I'll overwhelm myself, and I know you do.
You know my brain.
I've seen you.
Yeah, I think too much, man. But yeah,
and
well, that's fascinating though to think, if you can kind of stomach it, you know, just sort of at a distance, try to analyze. As a creative, you know, again, trying to figure out our path forward. It's like you're like me. You've kind of chosen a path, but it's like you're on a road that's curvy. You don't see where it's ultimately going. You're just kind of staying on that path. It's
that's been my whole freaking journey, man.
Yeah,
crazy. You know, here's the thing, though. Sometimes I get discouraged about what we were just talking about. You know, about the just putting it out there, and everybody owns everything, kind of. Yeah. And you know, but what gets me up in the morning is the love, man. I still love music so much, you know. I'm still such a fan. And that really, really, really gladdens my heart, that the music business has let me down. People have let me down. So many things that go along with this whole music thing, but the music itself has never let me down, dude. Yeah. I can still, to this day, put on Anita Baker's Rapture album, or Purple Rain, or, you know, Gretchen Goes to Nebraska by King's X, whatever. Put these albums on, bro, and they still blow my freaking mind, man. Yeah. Yeah. They still blow my mind. It's like, or when I hear it, like a new artist, man, like Dua Lipa.
Yeah.
Dude, she's freaking great.
Yeah.
When I hear a new artist, man, that like, I'm like, okay, there's freaking hope, dude. Like, she's so creative and cool, and I don't know if it's her producers or whatever, but that album is freaking great.
Yeah.
Or even some of these young guys, man, like I learned the song Attention by Charlie Puth the other day. I was adding it to my set, and I was like, this is a great tune, man. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of, it makes my heart smile to know that even now there's still some young guys out there who really want to be great, you know, and really want to do well, guys and girls, who really want to create some great music, you know, and leave their imprint on the world, man, musically, you know. And it's just, so that's still what gets me up every day, man, is the love of music. I still am so thankful that this is my gift, you know. Yeah. People look at me and like, oh, you play music. I'm like, it's just cool, you know. Yeah, it's cool to be able to say that I do this. And of course, there's other people who are so talented in other areas that I look at and like, I wish I could do that. But this is my gift, and I'm really thankful for it, man. And
yeah, we are fortunate.
Get to jam with guys like you. You know what I mean?
Man, well, I'm glad you added that, because you know there's lots of conversations out there. You know, people talking about new music is horrible, and it's it's kind of died and all that other stuff. But there are still some artists out there. There are still some things being done musically that are really, really great. It's just that it may take a little more effort to find it, what speaks to you because of all the noise. But that's so true, man. Out there for sure. So
I'm always amazed when my kids, like, they'll be into these artists. Like, where did you find that? I'm like, oh, these playlists. What? Yeah, we just found these playlists and we just. Sorry. You still there?
Yeah.
Sorry, my phone is dying.
No sweat, man.
So yeah, they find all their artists through these playlists, like on Spotify or whatever, and it's like, okay, I guess that's how they're finding music now,
Yeah.
It's a different time, man. You just have to, if you're gonna have any longevity, man, you've got to adapt, man. You have to.
That's right.
Adapt or die, brother. And so, I think that you've adapted nicely, my friend.
Oh, thanks, man. Likewise. The fact we're having this conversation in this musical context just kind of says it all. Even though recent events and things may have affected, the exact numbers in the bank accounts, because of what happens as a result of a pandemic. Yes. We're still doing it. Thank God. And I don't take it for granted.
Yeah, man.
So as we draw to a close here, I mean, is there anything? I'd love it if is there anything you want to share with people that they can check out, or anything getting ready to come out, or you mentioned you're working on a new record. That's exciting news. Anything else you want to draw people's attention to?
It's cool. Whenever I'm in Nashville, whatever, you and Mike Whitaker and the Bottom 40 band, you guys will invite me to come sing with you guys or whatever.
Yeah, it's a treat.
And the reason I brought that up is it's cool that even though, we musically, when you listen to our albums, let's say, they're completely different, right? It's a totally different genre and all that. But there is a common ground. And of course, our history, but there's a lot more. It's funny because I'm a huge fan of fusion, even though I could never play that music. I grew up listening to Return to Forever and Spiral Gyra and all that stuff.
Man, you are totally in the know of all that stuff.
Yeah, but I just could never do it well. I could never, a lot of people don't know I'm a bass player too, but Adam is just a whole nother level. You know what I'm saying?
Billy,
I'm funkier though.
Billy seriously is, we didn't talk enough about your bass playing, but
whatever, dude.
But yeah.
But so, if people want to go and listen to what I do, just go to billybuchanan.org/music. It's not Adam Nitti music, it's Billy music. But maybe you'll. But
no, man, we'll put the links here in the video for people.
Yeah, if you go to my site, though, if you guys are interested in hearing Beehive and Skin Deep, I do have all that music on my site too. So I encourage all of you to do that, and it's. More than anything else, it gives you a chance to also hear the history behind both of what we're doing now. Yeah. And it's great music, man. It's a lot of fun. So cool, dude.
Can people hire you? I'm sorry?
Proud of you, dude.
Oh, thanks, man. Likewise. Can people hire you to sing on their projects?
Of course, man.
Is that cool? So do they get in touch with you through your website?
Yeah, if you go to the website, if you go to my website, there's a contact page. Okay. Or you can just email me at booking@billybuchanan.org.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
So y'all heard that. Take advantage. Like I'm telling you, with all these players, everybody so far has been gracious enough to offer their services. You need to take them up on it. And Billy, thank you, dude. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, love to you and your beautiful family. And looking forward to finally getting together in person again. Hopefully soon.
Yeah, dude. Hopefully soon, man.
Cool. All right, man.
Thanks, bro. Love you, man.
Have a good day. Bye.
Yeah, you too.